We've all been there, right? Getting your blood drawn. It's so common, most of us probably don't even give it a second thought. But you know, behind that simple poke is a really precise science, one where a single tiny mistake can have some pretty serious consequences. So today, let's uncover the hidden complexity of phlebotomy.
So let me ask you this. You've seen the needle, you've seen the tubes, the little band they wrap around your arm, but are you aware of the one error, one that's completely invisible to you as the patient, that can make the entire blood sample totally useless? It can even lead to a dangerous misdiagnosis. It's probably not what you're thinking, and it's exactly what we're going to get into.
All right, first up, let's talk about the physical act of the draw itself. I mean, this is so much more than just finding a vein and poking it. It's a practiced skill, a very specific sequence of actions that really sets the stage for everything that comes after. A perfect draw really hinges on 3 key moments. It's a sequence, right? First, you apply the tourniquet to make that vein easy to get to. Second, you anchor that vein so it doesn't try to get away. And third, you insert the needle with absolute stability. Each of these steps is a potential point of failure, so let's break down exactly where things can go wrong.
It all starts with the tourniquet. Now, what's really interesting here is how specific the best practice is. You see, if it's too loose or way too far up the arm or too close to the spot, the veins just won't pop like they need to. The sweet spot is about 2 to 3 inches above where the needle's going in. Oh, and using a brightly colored one, that's a super important safety measure to make sure it never ever gets accidentally left on. Next up is a step you've probably felt but never really thought about: anchoring the vein. This is absolutely crucial. The phlebotomist uses their thumb to pull the skin taut just below the site. Why? Well, this stops the vein from what they call rolling, basically moving away from the needle right at that critical moment. It's the difference between a smooth, one-and-done stick and a painful miss. And hey, once that needle's in, the job isn't over. The phlebotomist has to keep a rock-solid grip on it. Any little movement isn't just uncomfortable for you, it can actually damage the vein wall and mess with the blood flow into the tube. They have to firmly grasp it to keep everything steady, especially while they're swapping out the different tubes. Okay, so we've covered the stick, but now we get to the most critical part of this entire process. This is the part that answers that question from the beginning. It's called the order of draw, and it is the absolute, non-negotiable secret code that protects the integrity of your blood sample. Now, the whole reason for this secret code is to prevent something called additive carryover. See, each one of those different colored tubes isn't just an empty container. It's filled with a specific chemical additive needed for a specific test. Carryover happens when a microscopic drop of an additive from, say, tube number 1 gets carried into tube number 2 by the needle. Think of it like baking a cake. If you use the same spoon and the salt and then dip it right into the sugar, your recipe is totally ruined.
And believe me, this isn't just a small problem. The consequences can be severe. For example, if the stuff from a lavender top tube gets into a tube testing for potassium, the results can be falsely and dangerously high. If a clot activator gets into a coagulation tube, it can completely throw off the results. This can lead directly to what experts call life-threatening medical mistakes. It's a really big deal.
So, how do we prevent this disaster? With this, the internationally recognized order of draw. This exact sequence is the solution. By drawing the tubes in this specific order, any potential carryover becomes harmless. You start with sterile blood cultures, then you move to the light blue top for coagulation tests, then the serum tubes, and so on, right down the line. Every single phlebotomist has this sequence memorized. It's the silent, vital grammar of collecting blood.
Now, beyond that additive carryover, there's another source of contamination we have to deal with before the needle even goes in: the bacteria that are just living on our own skin. So making sure a sample is clean starts with perfect prep work.
The World Health Organization has a very strict protocol for this. First, the site is cleaned with 70% alcohol, but it's how they do it that matters. Starting at the center and moving in an outward spiral. This actually pushes any contaminants away from where the needle will go. And then, and this is important, you have to let it air dry completely. Fanning it or blowing on it just puts germs right back on the clean spot.
And here is the golden rule. Once that site is clean, you cannot touch it again, not even with a gloved finger, just to double-check the vein. If that site is touched for any reason, the whole disinfection process has to be started all over again, right from scratch. There are 0 exceptions to this rule.
Okay, finally, a perfect blood draw isn't really done until everything is finished safely, and that means safely for both the patient and for the healthcare worker. This last part is all about preventing infection and injury after the samples have been collected.
A huge part of this is sharp safety.
Once a needle has been used, it's a biohazard. This is why the needle and the holder it's attached to are always treated as one single unit. They have to be thrown away together, immediately, into one of those special puncture-resistant containers.
And really, this all boils down to a few non-negotiable safety rules. First, a fresh pair of gloves for every single patient. Second, you never, ever, ever reuse a needle. And maybe the most important rule of all, the one that protects the person drawing the blood, you never, ever try to put the cap back on a used needle. That simple little move is one of the biggest causes of accidental needle stick injuries in healthcare.
So what this all shows us is that phlebotomy isn't just a single action, it's a chain of critical events. From placing the tourniquet just right, to following the secret code of the tubes, all the way to the final, safe disposal of the needle, every single link in that chain has to be perfect. That precision is what makes sure the results your doctor gets are a true picture of what's happening inside your body. It really is a science, through and through.
So the next time you sit down in that chair and roll up your sleeve, what are you going to see? Will you see just another routine poke? Or will you see the invisible, complex dance of technique, chemistry, and safety that's all happening just to protect your health?
Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.